Ready, sir. Everything's loaded. Everything's fixed. The world is awesome. Let me hit record. We'll test levels. We'll tweet out the twaddle.
Opening Twitter.
Open the Twitter. Yes.
Release the Twitter.
What? Okay, here we go. So first we'll go testing. Whoa, that's way too loud. Check. It rises. The weird things rises.
Weird things. B. Arthur and Sean Connery had a child.
Does she sound like B. Arthur, you think Bane does?
B. Arthur and Sean Connery.
Oh, man, I'll have to listen to some B. Arthur. All right, give me a test.
Brian.
It makes sense though. B. Arthur and Sean Connery. That does.
They do seem like sense. They would hook up like at a Bing Crosby holiday special at some point. There we go.
Actually, I think he'd play like a round of golf with her and not realize she's a woman.
Yeah.
I feel a strange stirring in my loins.
Oh,
Sean.
Did you have a vagina?
And then we've got Bane.
We have Bane to consider.
Yes. They're expecting one of us to stick around. Okay, let me lock this door, and then then I'll tweet out.
Lock the door. It's that kind of episode. You tweet the Earl, Justin?
Yep. Tweeted and retweeted.
I'm going to put it live now. Live.
Wait a minute, it just says the embed doesn't seem to work.
What?
I'm clicking on
What?
What? They're expecting
Brother, you've got to make it work.
They're expecting one of us to watch the Weird Things podcast recording.
That's your embed, right?
Yeah, but like, what do I click? I guess I click play. Oh, that's what I have to do.
Noob.
But see, what happens is when you just click the thing here, when you're like, okay, I'll click this, then it takes you to the page. Which,
What ignoramus would do that?
Well, I would. I did. That's not.
Sorry.
That's a true story of what just happened to me.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what our other options are.
Maybe write down, if you're an idiot like Brian Brushwood, then maybe you.
Oh, they have a Brushwood plugin.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
And I do that. Like, there's a website I go to where I keep entering in my password into like the email box. Like, you know,
Yes!
send us your email. And then, like, why can't I sign in?
Your frustration rises.
Frustration.
I am tweet.
Listen, Rose. If you're going to go out dressed like that.
I expect you to die.
No, Mr. Wayne, I expect you to die.
That's all kinds of mixed up. All right, let me lock this door and we're ready to go. You guys will never believe where I am.
Where?
Home in the studio. Right?
Oh my God.
Right? Who would have thought it? That's not.
Did your children remember you?
Yes, I assume so. They certainly.
Not they faked it very well.
Yeah.
Did they like go look at like stick drawings they made of you and like?
I mean, really, what's the difference? Let's say they were faking. I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Good
fine.
call.
Totally fine. We're all fine here.
You come back, remember Bonnie's pregnant.
Oh, wow. When did that happen?
We find out the sex tomorrow.
Nice. Are you gonna do a big live stream special with a countdown and everything?
Oh, we totally should. Especially when the answer is like, I don't know. Do you know that at birth, 1 in 5,000 babies, they cannot identify the gender positively by looking at the genitalia?
Like they just have to wait. Is it just like how they're flashing their piece or lack of piece?
Yeah, pretty much. Whoa, did you just break in, Bonnie? You want to say something?
Hello.
There you go.
Hello.
Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Miss B.
I thought I had your phone with me, but apparently I don't. But I do have this.
Hey, oh, there we go. It's a life-size recreation of Brian Brushwood.
Nyak, nyak. Nyak, nyak. Nicely played. All right, are you going to lock that door? All right.
Bye, Bonnie.
You can come back if you want later.
Please.
Please.
Spice it up.
Please. Yes. All right.
Spice
Ready?
it up.
Yes. Excellent.
So I assume we're going to talk about, because we haven't got a chance to talk about The Dark Knight Rises. I assume we're going to talk about The Dark Knight Rises. Do we want to save it for the end of the episode? Like,
Yeah, let's do it at the end. I want to...
Oh, crap, man. Wow. Yeah, I guess so.
Because I think, I mean, I don't know. I'm not looking at the chat room because we don't look at the chat room, but I would assume that fans of the podcast that like our movie talk would like, for an end of the episode discussion like we've had with other big movies this summer.
They're expecting one of us to talk about The Dark Knight Rises.
I know it's late, but I think people would like it.
Yeah,
If you want us to talk about Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight. Dark Knight. Dark.
Master Wayne.
Master.
Mr. Young.
Master Wayne. I was reading on Wikipedia.
No, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. We got to unfold it.
We haven't done that bit somewhere else?
No, we only did it to each other on the phone, which sounds hilariously dirty, but
we did our weird things on the phone.
we did a solid 45 minutes of the Alfred joke that we will debut
All
here
right,
on the podcast.
girls. I got a hard out at like 10:30, so let's get this going.
Hello. Is that the position of it? Like 10:30 is right about like that angle? Is that what it is?
That's when the new photos
That's
come
the
online.
hard out. All right, ready.
Videos get posted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready?
What?
Rocking and rolling.
Boys and girls, welcome to an episode of, what is this? The three of us together after an eternity?
Yeah, man. We felt like the two amigos who were wishing for a third amigo who was always busy on the night they wanted to hang out.
I have to travel at night.
It's a medical condition. It's I don't want to get into the details. By the way, you're O positive, right?
Yes. I'm Andrew Main. That's Mr. Brian Brushwood you hear, and there is Mr. Justin Robert Young.
Oui.
So, it's Weird Things, the podcast. If I remember what we do on this, I think we talk about weird stuff. And
it's been a while. We got to kind of get back in the groove.
Yeah, it's been like 2 weeks.
Because one of us was in a very, very weird place. I'm not talking about when I went to Jody Maroney's in Venice Beach. I'm talking about Mr. Brian Brush. By the way, Venice Beach, on the way to the Venice Beach boardwalk, you pass the Venice Beach freak show, and there's actually not just the actual Venice Beach freak show. There is a literal freak show there. And I saw a guy sitting under the sign who had shaved his head, like bleached white hair, shaved his eyebrows, looked very, very pale, and was sitting under the sign, dressed all in black in the middle of the sun, looking very sad. And I wanted to take a photo because I thought it was hysterical, but then I thought, no, it's actually kind of sad, so I didn't do that on Twitter.
He's Sadtor, the world's saddest man.
It was like the saddest freak under the freak show side. And I thought, no, I don't want to disturb this.
Even freaks get broken up with. I think we all need to pause to remember.
He just chose to sit under the sign. I'm like, wow, this is really appropriate. This is
exactly. There was a moment Brian
was Indonesia.
Yeah, man. I was a little bit nervous, especially after that story of everybody having a taste of the local weirdo. What is it? Everyone ate.
Yeah, the cannibalism.
Yeah, a little bit cannibalism made me a little bit nervous. Luckily, in Jakarta, we didn't see a lot of that. But man, You do see a lot of weird things or culturally things that you are not accustomed to.
Tell us. We want stories, man.
Well, okay, so this is all for they're doing a magic special called Mahakaria Magician 2012, and they had me out.
Oh yes, 2011 was really they outdid themselves. Can't wait to see what they do for 2012.
Well, apparently they did, and this was their reunion special, so they had me back, and I had so much fun last time that this time, it was instant. I was like, yes, of course, let's do this, because a couple things you should know about Indonesia: they have 30,000 islands that make up the nation. So obviously you're not running cable to all those islands. And for many of the people who live on the islands, satellite would be too expensive. So this is an entire country that essentially watches television exactly the way we in America did 25, 30 years ago.
And it's like 100 million people in Indonesia, right?
200 million people.
200 million.
200 million people, right? So it's more than half the size of the United States. And when they do a live special, they have only 10 broadcast stations, and only 3 of them produce original content. All the rest, they license stuff and they just repackage it and
like
maybe overdub it. Yeah, sure. They overdub everything. But they when they do live, they do honest to goodness live, not live to tape, not 10-second delay live. Like the feed is on, and 40 to 60 million people are watching you right now, because when they do one of these specials. And magic is extraordinarily popular overseas. They have a tradition of fakirs. And so when they do, like, they'll get 44% of the market share of everybody watching television is watching this special at that time, which equates to, depending on how many people watching, between 40 and 60 million people live.
Brian, did you get a context of like what it would be similar to in the United States? Like what culturally this special, like would it be like a Copperfield special, or would it be bigger like the Oscars or something like that?
I think the presidential primary debates.
I mean, as far as the hard numbers, I guess it would be bigger than a Copperfield special. I didn't even pause to think about that. I mean, that's as far as hard numbers, they're getting close to what you would see from, essentially like the Super Bowl. I mean, the American Super Bowl, we're breaking records because we hit 90 million last time, I think, was how many people watched the Super Bowl live. And at least to be in that ballpark, to put it in context, the highest rated cable nightly news program is strutting around like cock of the walk because they get 2 million views, 2 million viewers every night. And this is 20 times that number. So everywhere we go, anyway, once we do the show, everywhere we go afterwards, it's like I'm legit famous. People stop and recognize me and wanting to take photos. Everybody's super polite and super nice, but man, they are not messing around. I keep calling it being fake famous, and everyone's like, "Why are you calling it fake famous?" I mean, you were on this show; these people saw you, but
they're real people.
Well, yeah, they're real people. But to me, if you can hop on a plane and suddenly that ends, if you could travel geographically and that ends, then it's fake fame, right?
Well, but that's true of a lot of American celebrities. You're big here, and then you go over to Europe in English-speaking countries. If you go to Australia, for example, and people don't know who you are.
That's a way good point. But
all right, so Brian, so you went over there. Was it 1 year ago or 2 years ago?
A year and a half ago, because it was at the very, very end of 2010. So it's been about a year and a half.
Okay, so you go over there, you do a big thing, and again, it does a gigantic number. And then you come back. Were you expecting, what was your expectation in terms of people recognizing you versus how it turned out?
I didn't have any idea what to expect. And it was so fast. Once we landed, we kind of got the first night off to get situated because you have major jet lag if you've ever flown out to, and I'm sure as Andrew knows. Oh, shoot. Speaking of which, I did an interview. I gotta give a heads up. Let me get the details on all this straight. But I did an interview for one of the newspapers, and it turns out that the person interviewing me from the newspaper was at first I thought it was a case where, because I knew his dad and performed for his dad in Grand Island, Nebraska, and I thought that his dad had just forwarded along, hey, there's this guy Brian Brushwood, you should meet him. I understand, you do sports reporting for this Indonesian newspaper, and so I come on out and. We start talking, and at some point he mentions the amazing meeting, and I'm like, oh, so you're hip to the skeptic community. He's like, oh no, I think it's great. I went out that one time. I went out last year. It was amazing. And I was like, all right, cool. And he was asking me about how Indonesian magic is different from other places. And I was like, well, culturally, they're very into this rock star image of the magician, and other countries, as I understand it, in China, they also love magic, but it's very rigid. It's like, this is how you do the linking rings, and you shall not do it any other way. And he says, yeah, I heard on the Weird Things podcast, Andrew Mayne went to China, didn't he? And then I'm just like, what did you know about? You know about the Weird Thing? We got fans all over the world for this. It was absolutely amazing.
When we would do some of our iTricks live chat stuff, like where people would hop in pre-Google Hangouts, we get a lot of Indonesians, and we get these kids who would hang out, and maybe a lot of them speak English, but some of them don't, but they just want to participate. Very, very culturally open. I think that's something to do with the island thing or something, the exchange of ideas. But
right. Well, I think that's
always fun.
Regardless, I want to give a huge thanks to Nick Freeland of Grand Island in Nebraska, who is the guy who hired me. He was one of the first college shows I ever worked, and his son, Paul Freeland, who's the newspaper reporter working at Indonesia, about to wrap up and go up to, he's going to start a stint up in, I believe, Tokyo, Japan next. But he's a fan of the show, and I hope he hears this, and I want him to know that it was fantastic to discover that the Weird Things podcast truly does have an international audience. It's fantastic.
So, anything cool you saw on the streets there? Anything weird, or give us something? Ping pong parlor.
Well, there are some things you expect, right? And this is what's fascinating to me as a Westerner, is the fusion of how within as little as 30 meters to one side, you can have abject poverty. They've got this river running through Jakarta that is just horrifically, unfixably, it's black death and trash running down this entire thing. And there's tenement housing where people have built, everything on 2x4s, hanging out awkwardly over the water, and you see this poverty. There was a stray cat going around that was just messed up. It was oozing. They called it white blood, which, pus coming out of the eyes and stuff. And then meanwhile, you can walk 30 meters in the other direction, and all of a sudden you are in a mall bigger than any mall I've seen in the United States, with 40-foot tall video screens where they're shooting concerts and television specials, and they have Western-themed restaurants that have Guinness and pizza and beer, and then you could go to another part of the mall where you have I don't know what the delicacy was called, but essentially they deep fry a fish all at once, the entire thing, scales and all, and you just sort of pluck it open and start digging in, and they'll even eat the spines on the and I tried it. It tasted fine. Because it's so deep fried, you could take the spines on the fins and just break them off, and they're like French fries. They just chew.
You're a Texan too. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Take that for what it's worth. It was unreal. At one point at this mall, I turned the corner, and they're having a dog show with what must have been 40 or 50 Yorkshire Terriers going around, and they were all immaculately, pristinely groomed. It was utterly delightful to see everything, and it was utterly delightful to see, if you've ever watched Scam School, friend of the show, Dennis Rogers out there, he did a stunt where he kept 2 planes from taking off, and, he hooked his arms into 2 loops, and just with his own strength, holding them back, the 2 military airplanes were not able to take off in either direction. It was one of the most amazing experiences, and I want to also give a shout out to a friend of the Weird Things podcast, Bill Meeks, for joining us to document the whole thing so that we could take these and make them into episodes over on Scam School.
Cool. Very cool.
And so when do you think that we will see the Scam School episodes coming out for people who are interested?
We did some nutty shows on Scam School this last time. This week we're running the Shark Week episode, which now that Scam School is on the Discovery Network, it's important that that we time that up. Next week after that, we learned some pro wrestling moves. I'm gonna suppose it's probably the week after that, or they may want to push it back a bit. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, that is pretty awesome, man. That is some very, very cool stuff.
It was exquisite. And to come back from that back to America and immediately come rushing back and hop on the Twit live streams and do NSFW and Frame Rate and This Week in Tech all in studio. There's a little bit of a culture shock, but it was a blast. I'd be happy to do it again.
Well, I'll tell you what. We can move along with this episode after Brian's talk about Indonesia. But I'm glad that you brought up Paul Freeland, because before you had left Indonesia,
yes,
I got an email from Paul Freeland.
Shut up.
Who asked if he could sponsor this entire podcast.
Shut up. Did you know this in advance and I just randomly brought this up?
So allow me to thank Paul Freeland, who writes, thanks to Brian for stopping into chat while he was in Jakarta.
You already knew this!
It was a pleasure to finally meet him after missing his first visit to Indonesia and several stops in the U.S. So there we go. Paul Freeland bought all 3 spots. I'm going to go check through them and make sure that they all don't say different things. But thank you very much for Paul for buying out the entire episode. Thank you for supporting the Weird Things podcast. If you would like to completely shock Brian Brushwood by meeting him and then, timely mentioning that you sponsored the podcast right after he mentions your name, then you can go ahead on over to weirdthings.com/sponsor. I do want to note there were some people who bought episodes or bought sponsored spots before Paul. However, when you buy the full episode, you can get automatic line cutting privileges.
Yeah, and let me say, knowing that Paul will definitely hear this now since he sponsored the damn episode, let me say that it was utterly magical for me personally to go into a meeting thinking in terms of, okay, here's a guy I know whose son is in journalism, and I'm going to give an interview for him, and then slowly realize that oh wait, first we're on the same page as far as, skepticism, and then to realize, oh wait, you actually know the shows, and like you're and then finally figure out that he's a fan. It was exquisite, and this is the final layer. This is the icing on the cake. Thank you very much, Paul.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, rest easy. They caught it.
This is that moment where we all stand up and start cheering.
17 feet long and 7 inches. It's belly bursting with 87 eggs. A monster Burmese python was captured in the Everglades, breaking the state record.
How long?
17 feet, 7 inches.
And this is, it sounded like you said Everglades, but I'm sure you meant South America. There's no Everglades in the South America.
This is a Burmese python.
Yeah, because it's in Burma. This is in
Burma, South America.
Burma,
yes.
Yeah, sure. Burma, West Indies, right?
So, about a foot across, found in the Everglades. Gets more interesting. About a foot across, okay? Now, I heard you use the term meters, which, you're an international citizen now. This thing was 17 feet across, a foot across. Quote, this thing could eat anything it wants. But what's really interesting is how they caught this.
What did they catch it like halfway through eating grandmother?
Well, and real quick, let me just give people context for those of you who aren't familiar with what the Everglades relationship is to Florida. Basically, from about certainly within walking distance of, let's say, Andrew's house, and it is maybe a 8-minute drive from where Andrews is located and where I was raised and grew up in South Florida. You hit the Everglades. That Everglades, it's about a half-hour drive across the state if you go from the Atlantic side to the Gulf side, and that pretty much goes the entire length. It's just big marsh and wetland that goes in between basically like where your Daytonas and Fort Lauderdales, your Atlantic coast cities, and your Tampa Bays and Clearwaters and all the western Florida cities. But it is all just marshland, shockingly close to where everybody lives.
Okay. So we have an invasive species problem here, and we've got, for the Burmese pythons are one of the things we found, and these things will go mano-a-mano with alligators and eat them. They found feathers inside it, but it had 87 eggs in its stomach. When a Burmese python gives birth, these things pop out. They're 18 inches long already. Wow. This thing was pretty close to giving birth to 87 little Burmese pythons.
Oh, my good Lord.
I mean, are we happy that it didn't? I mean, part of me is just like, let's make the world a little bit crazier. Let's have our own magical, dangerous place in our own backyard.
I live in Florida.
No.
I was going to say, yeah, change that to the central Austin Everglades.
It's not so exciting that way.
So here's where it gets kind of crazy. So, I'm reading this. You start reading like, great, scary python, fantastic. And then I find out how they when they decided to pull it in. You see, they followed the radio transmitter it had on it.
Wait a minute. They had tagged it and released it?
They tagged it, and then after a month or so, they decided to capture this thing, and they euthanized it using like some sort of snake gas. Now
So
you guys go like, why did they tag this thing?
Was it 17 feet when they released it? Do we know? Like, did it get crazy big?
Yeah. No, it was already like big. Do you know why they tagged it?
Why?
Snake narc.
Wait a minute. You got 21
it's the
jump
snake
snake?
wire. They put a wire on the snake so they could track it and see when it was hooking up with other snakes. They would just track them down.
And so it got knocked up. They were listening to the snake booty rattling.
Something like that. And so they called it the Judas snake. So they used it to locate other ones. And so they'd follow this thing around. They'd see where it was hanging out. They'd go find those other snakes. Like, freeze!
So this is like this is, you know, the Everglades are the bathhouse of the 2010s for many invasive snakes.
You guys are going to have to give me a moment. I need to go outfit both of my daughters with radio transmitters. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to jump out. Freeze! Start bag!
So they didn't know really. They didn't have a whole lot of records for how many eggs a female has inside of them. And then, so apparently they figured out, they caught it. They figured out the time and said, all right, let's use this snake. Let's put a wire on it, catch other snakes, and then let's go pull it back in once before it hatches. 87 eggs, 87 future 17-footers.
I got to tell you this, and I know this makes no. It's an invasive species, and I understand we don't want Burmese pythons all over our Everglades, but I just think like, man, world would get a lot more interesting if 87 more Burmese pythons just exploded on the scene.
These aren't just. I mean, like, if you keep having these snakes mate, then they just start slithering onto Alligator Alley and then start hitching rides into Davie, Florida, and eating at Las Patas. Like, this thing is a problem.
No, it's awesome. It's I want mate snakes. Come on, man. I want adult snake finder, which is probably an actual site somewhere.
Apparently, snakes aren't having a problem finding each other and hooking up.
No.
How do they do that?
If the underbrush is a rockin', don't come a knockin'.
So I was thinking about, before I found out about this, I wanted to do kind of a Jaws-like story involving giant snakes out there in the Everglades. I was thinking I needed a premise, and then this just fell right in front of me.
I'll tell you what, like, so is there any kind of controversy now, like, in how they were handling this, or are people just like it's insane that things this big are living this close to us?
Well, it's a big issue here, and I think that it shows that they're actively trying to do something about it other than just randomly find the snakes. I was talking to our buddy Chris Brennan, who's his dad pulled one of the record-sized snakes out of a house in Florida, like a 20-footer, years ago. And I was hypothesizing. I said, what if we got snake musk or something and find out when they hook up or whatever? And then a week later, this thing comes out, and so it's just like, well, yeah, that's an obvious idea. But there's actually, like, The Wire, but with snakes.
So are they like, okay, this snake is not pregnant, so let's let it go. Let's keep it on transmitter, and then let's just get it before the snake pregnancy cycle could end. So we assume
do they suddenly have like a time limit where they're all like, well, okay, if you look at the GPS data, it made it here and it went under this tree, and then it just sort of shook around for 20 minutes, and now it's like we got like what, 3 months, and we got to find this thing and capture it before it gives babies. Probably
exactly what happens. They use the shook around. They're too polite to say what.
Yes. They're all, look at that GPS signal tremor. What?
A foot wide. Quote, it could eat anything it wants.
That's
Brian, take a look at your lovely children.
It's crazy to think when we think of like, oh man, like James Cameron's going down to the bottom of the ocean. Like, what the hell is down there? Like, this stuff is in the, like, I don't think
I can see it from here.
Yeah, I don't think that people really understand how easy it is and how often people interact with the Everglades in South Florida. Like, it is a daily way of life. I have friends, including my friend Anthony Caruso, who turns 30 today, is an avid kayaker, goes out into the Everglades at least once a week. and there are 17-foot snakes looking to eat his face.
Are you saying that you're tired of these MFing snakes in this MFing Everglades?
I mean, there's nothing we can do, right? Except for find them right after they bang and kill them. And then try to scout out where they bang and kill the people that come for the bang sound.
Seems legit, man. It's the only way to be sure. Nuke it from space.
So, a man in Nebraska is a little bit upset about his apartment.
A man in Nebraska?
Yeah, man in Nebraska, a little upset.
It's not Grand Island, Nebraska, home of Nick Freeland, Paul Freeland's dad.
Well, I'll tell you what, I do also want to remind people, Paul Freeland did send 3 messages, and the second of the 3 messages says, thanks to Justin for his pep talk on Twitter. Justin will add, parenthetically, he does not remember giving Paul a pep talk on Twitter. However, I'm very glad that he enjoyed it. To paraphrase one of my favorite Western philosophers, Charles Barkley, I'm not leaving the newspaper industry. The newspaper industry is leaving me. So I guess I talked to him from one newspaper writer to a current newspaper writer and gave him some kind of disparaging advice about the industry. But I'm glad he got some worth.
This is that moment when Paul Freeland comes up and he's just like, it really meant a lot to me that night. And you're like, hey, listen, bro, I give a lot of advice to a lot of dudes. I mean, you're great and all, but I mean, it's probably nothing I ain't never said before to someone else louder is all I'm saying.
So, man in Nebraska.
Apparently his apartment, and I got it. I chose this one because I love this wonderful writing. He's got a problem with he keeps catching brown recluse spiders.
That terrifies me.
Okay, they're dangerously venomous. They're not aggressive, but their bites can be painful. Fatal bites are rare, but they happen. It's an exterminator went to his apartment 6 times. This is my favorite quote. Exterminator visited his apartment 6 times, but the spiders are reclusive and managed to hide in deeper walls. Why can't you find these recluse spiders?
Well, they're highly reclusive. They're not always out in our face.
And the brown paint.
Yeah, no, it's just tough. I mean, they're small.
Also, the drapes are brown. We're a big fan of Charlie Brown, the character.
So, Bauman said the brown recluse spiders are pitiful climbers. If they try to scale a wall, they'll reach about 4 feet and fall. His bed has metal legs that prove insurmountable to these spiders. His bed is the only safe sanctuary in his apartment. Yeah, that's what he tells the girls.
Yes. Oh, man. Imagine that, though. Imagine just, like, on your bed and then, like, all you can hear is just, like at night, just like the... Like, just like that little disturbance in the air around you that you know is some kind of creature.
8 eyes watching you.
Well, so what's the story with this? He just has an infested apartment and can't get rid of them all, or
he's had the exterminator there 6 times, Brian. 6 times, and they keep coming back because they're reclusive.
I mean, have they bug bombed the entire? This is hard for me to believe. And by the way, while I was in Indonesia, Bonnie filled me in that we had like 3 more scorpion incidents. Apparently, we're just Scorpio-tastic over here with scorpions.
Well, I when I come back, like when I travel, like I was away for a week. I come back, and maybe I don't always make my bed. And I realize now why you want to make your bed. Nothing happened, but I walked into my room, about to climb into bed. I was like, red-eye flight, and I look, and I got this crumpled blanket sitting on my bed, and I'm about to crawl. I'm like, I've been away a week. Anything could climb inside of there and be waiting.
And was there anything?
A ghost.
I'll tell you what, though. There's something about scorpions in the punk rock way that they just move so slow. Like, I've never seen a bug have swagger until I saw a scorpion just being like, what's up, bro? I got this. I got one of these. Just like, which do you want? You want the claw, or the stinger? Or the stare. Plus, they also glow in the dark. Did you know that they fluoresce?
Yeah, you mentioned that before. That's pretty rad. I'd be like, oh, look at that plastic toy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, did I get that out of a cereal box?
Which would you rather face? Which would you rather run across in your room? A scorpion, we'll say a tarantula, a brown recluse, a black widow, or a 17-foot long Burmese python.
Tarantula.
Yeah? You're not scared of tarantulas?
Well, tarantulas, I mean, they're generally not venomous. You can see them coming. And, you know, they can kind of be adorable in their own way.
I would be terrified of them. I don't want to. This is a very minor spoiler, but the opening scene of last night's Breaking Bad has a kid riding around on a dirt bike. And there's no context for this, so I'm seriously not ruining anything. But he's riding around on a dirt bike in the desert, and he sort of pulls up and sees a tarantula. And the first thing he does is he reaches his hand out and lets the tarantula crawl on him. And he does this thing where it's like it's running up his fingers a few times, and he throws it in a jar and goes. I understand the throwing it in a jar part. Being a kid, you want to collect a spider. But just seeing a tarantula, and you're out there in the wild, and you're on your dirt bike, and be like, first thing I want to do is stick out my hands and have it crawl over. That would never occur to me. Not in a million years.
Some people aren't total sissies, Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
Okay, is that you? Is that you? You're saying that guy?
Of course not.
You're
no.
saying
Oh my God, no.
you're saying I'm Mr. Handy Tarantula?
Yeah, they are like
I don't know,
they're big and they're scary, but we've not found one that's deadly to people.
And that's what I figured. I figured the kids like, I was like,
Except
well, I guess
for
that
Shelob or whatever from Lord of the Rings. That's different.
Right. Well, and also, if there's a bunch of them and they're out to kill humanity, like Kingdom of the Spiders.
Or in Hogwarts. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess there is that too.
Other than that, so that's because that's I think when I think of a trend, because they're kind of hairy. They're kind of like the monkey spider, Like, oh, look.
Although hopefully it's not like the Vegas monkey spider where they rip out of their chimpanzee, like they rip out of their cages and go rampage.
Okay, how about that? Let's add that one to the mix. Which would you rather run across? Take out tarantula. Now it's brown recluse. Let's say 30 brown recluses, 30 black widows, a 17-foot long Burmese python, or a single adult chimpanzee.
Male or female?
You can't tell.
I've been reading the John Calvert book. John Calvert, for those of you who know, was a magician, was an actor, kind of this, kind of like the guy that every one of us wanted to grow up to be. Traveled around the world on this yacht, beautiful women, all this.
He's actually the world's most interesting man in the world.
Pretty much. Yeah.
He's actually
the
that
real
guy.
The real life guy. Sure.
John Calvert.
And so he in his book he talks about like a couple different times in which he's had chimpanzees, and he adopted one. And by the way, John Calvert is 100 years old. His birthday, which I think did we miss it? It was like
is that an exaggeration?
Last week. He's 100.
That wasn't a joke.
What?
You said he's 100 years old. Is that right?
100 years old.
Yeah, he was just 100 a week ago.
What?
Or no, he should be.
It says here, born August 5th,
No, he should be
1911.
101 now.
Yeah.
Is he still with us?
Is he still alive?
He's not dead.
This guy's a pimp. Are you kidding me? This is the real work. Through the Depression years into his 1940s, he continually increased the size of his magic show, adding illusions and personnel. From the mid-1940s to 1950s, he performed in 40 films, including starring roles in 3 film classic releases. 50s,
He wanted to make a movie about wild elephants in Africa. So what did he do? First, he went to Africa and shot himself a wild elephant.
Well, that's always the first step. I want to make a movie.
Method actor. John Calvert.
I want to make a movie about West Philadelphia prostitutes. So what's the first thing I do?
Shoot a West Philadelphia prostitute.
Exactly.
So this guy, an amazing life. But anyhow, so there was a story about how like the second chimpanzee he adopted would get loose, and like he'd get a call from like Jack Webb from like Dragnet, lived up the street. Just so you know, we have a visitor at our birthday party here. He's more than welcome to stay. And the chimp would be going out to parties, drinking out of people's glasses, and just having a time.
Well, chimps are apparently pretty docile and likable until they hit their teenage years, right? And then
this was like a 3-year-old chimp, but yeah, exactly.
But then they get into like, wanting to eat fingers and faces. Like that's
genitals.
Pre-bath salts, if the fastest way to end up with a missing face was to own a chimp.
Yeah, that's exactly. When they're young, they're adorable. Once they hit, once like many teenagers with superhuman strength.
Yeah, and just to clue people in on the story that we came into this topic with, in Las Vegas, there were 2 chimps, one of which ripped open the gates or the cage that he was being kept in that was not exactly built to standards, Both of the chimps escaped. One of them was shot by a responding officer after he made an aggressive move towards some of the residents. The other one was tranquilized because it was being not as aggressive. It was just kind of like screwing around with a garden hose, and it got a tranq dart in it. It then went to another facility, which it escaped from this weekend. They caught it again.
That just happened?
Animal control. Yes. The same animal control guy darted the chimp yet again, and now it's brought to Dirk Arthur's house. Dirk Arthur is an animal act magician in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Who has on his property, standard monkey cage. So that's where he's being kept.
Yeah, apparently the people that were looking after the chimps they came into it because they found them. They were volunteer caretakers, I guess, and they were adamant, chimps should not be kept as pets. They had stepped in to try to take care of the chimps. The two got out. The male got aggressive and was shot. And they're totally sympathetic with animal control. This one, the female, they say they think somebody may have let it out.
Yeah, there was damage to the gate, and they said that they was hours away from a welder coming to fix the damage when the chimp got out and started monkeying around, for lack of a better word. And then, so it got, apparently it was very, very scared when it saw the same animal control guy. That the animal control guy says that he thinks that the chimp recognized him from the last time. And eventually what's going to happen is they are going to bring the chimp named CJ, I believe, short for Calamity Jane, to a reserve in Oregon, in Bend, Oregon,
where
you can actually donate.
A bunch of hippies.
Well, all right. Well, so back to the original question, which is, which would you rather face? And I'm going to amend it a little bit more, because clearly you guys are not terrified of brown recluses or black widows, right? Neither of those scare you at all?
I guess I don't know.
They scare me.
Yeah, I don't know spiders enough that recognizing one or the other would be like, I could recognize a tarantula, but like beyond that, it would just be like an odd colored spider. I'd try to hit it with a shoe. So no matter what it was.
You walk into a room, the door closes, and you discover it locks behind you. And your choices are 4 rattlesnakes, 1 17-foot-long Burmese python, 1 chimpanzee. Which of those 3 rooms would you take?
How old's a chimp? Adult chimp?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, we'll say it's an adult chimp. And
adult chimp is right out for me.
Oh, yeah, first one out is chimp.
Yeah, so no matter what, you feel like there's nothing you could do to evade. You feel like even if you just huddle in the corner, looking down and not giving him the time of day.
I'll lose my ears.
You feel like
it will rip me apart like I was a Mr. Potato Head doll.
What if you knew
dismember me?
Man. What if you knew karate? Is there a single case of somebody who knows karate taking on a chimp?
No.
You're the best around. No one will steal your banana because you pound him in the ground.
There's a case of somebody teaching a chimp karate.
What? Is that
karate chimp?
Wait, there's such a thing as karate.
We talked about it here, yeah. And it's like, what more do we need to do? They're already like the most vicious pound for pound killer there is. Now let's teach it karate.
Can I Google? I'm gonna Google karate
chimp.
All right, hold on. I'm going karate chimp right now. Wow, there are 25 videos right now. Can I take a look? Charlie the karate chimp. Here we go. This is a video.
No way I could make a 16-year-old chimp perform karate if he didn't want to do it. He just likes it. He puts on that gi in his belt and he's all set to go.
Holy crap, he's doing karate!
Hey, karate chimp, what do you expect?
This is awesome!
A lot of his karate moves, especially his jump spinning heel kick, he could actually throw it better than any human.
This is the...
So we're watching
this is an extraordinarily well executed spinning heel kick.
Kicking. It is. Just type in karate chimp into YouTube and you'll see.
This may be the greatest thing I've ever seen.
It's terrifying, Brian. It's like sharks with laser beams.
Well, but still, like, he put him in a hold and he's doing like crazy kung fu movies.
Yeah,
breaking
that chimp
boards.
will never get mugged.
Okay, so the chimp's out. Like, that's last place, no matter what. 4 rattlesnakes. Now, here's the thing. You got multiple bogeys, right? And you can die of a rattlesnake bite. You know, you got to worry about anti-venom. Would you rather take on 4 rattlesnakes or a single 17-foot Burmese python?
I'm going to go ahead with the 4 rattlesnakes. I feel like I can step on 4 rattlesnakes and kill them easier than I could one 17-foot Burmese python.
Multiple bogeys, though. See, that python only has one way to take you out, and that's it's got to grab it and wrap you and squeeze you till you die. Whereas multiple bogeys, you're looking at 3 of them, 4th one sneaks up.
You just stomp the first one, the other one goes.
Yeah.
Well, like, all right, bare hands. Do you think you could tear apart a foot across 17-foot Burmese python?
No, but it's temperament. I think it's less likely, you know, when those snakes corner you, if they decide you move around, if they decide, hey, I don't like this guy, the snake's going to be kind of like a little bit wary, maybe keep its distance, but you'll know it coming. I'm not going to sleep in that room.
I mean, okay, look, that's 4.
Well, this is Thunderdome, right? Like, this is 1 creature, 1 man enters, and 1 creature or 1 man leaves, right?
Well, we didn't elaborate. We just said you go in a room and this is what's in there. Which would you rather find?
Okay, yeah, no, if you're taken out 15 minutes later, it's like, well, thank you for coming to Terror
But you don't know. But you know, to Terror World, that would be a great theme park. That's how Halloween Horror Nights, Universal Orlando, you want to up your game? Welcome to Terror World with Brian, Justin, and Andrew Main, where we're going to set up multiple rooms where you'll just open up and you have no idea how long you're going to be in the room with this thing.
By the way, Terror World is located offshore in international waters, so you've got to sign this waiver.
I'll tell you, we've talked a lot about building our own Jurassic Park. I feel like Terror World could happen tomorrow. Yeah. Like we could set up Terror, and at least we could just go Terror Barge. Maybe we start with Terror Barge.
I mean, I'm living in Terror World. I'm going to be honest.
The subtitle, of course, has to be the thrill of a lifetime, right? I mean, that's because that's it. Because your life,
the thrill of a lifetime, maybe your last.
Exactly. Right.
The tagline is "Hope you don't get the chimp."
So, Bri, what are you going for?
Oh my God, I think I'm going for the python because I understand intellectually that if it gets a grip on me, it can squeeze me and eat me and be all over. But it's one beast that I feel like I have a chance at outmaneuvering, right? Because snakes aren't super good. It's not like it's going to launch itself across the room in some kind of like ninja attack and then bear hug me to death. Whereas I do feel like that can happen with the chimp, and I do feel like that could happen with the 4 rattlesnakes.
So we put all of them in a room together. Who walks out?
Chimp.
No. The Burmese python.
Oh, day.
What? The chimp, number one, all of them in the room together. The chimp definitely gets bit. The snakes, none of the snakes are going to bite another snake. You're not going to have a rattlesnake biting a Burmese python. They're going to ignore each other. The rattlesnakes,
sure?
Yes.
Well, which the snakes don't? Do they have a detente? Do they have like some sort of agreement?
It's Snake Club, bro. The first rule of Snake Club is you don't.
What about
you don't
a king
bite
snake? It eats other snakes.
Not up here in this guy's mind. It doesn't. That's
not a Terror World.
Exactly.
What I imagine,
like, Andrew, what you don't understand is that Brian hasn't thought of that. So you just need to allow for this point.
What I would imagine is that one of the rattlesnakes, just one of them has to tag that chimp, and then that chimp is not so feisty. He's just gonna kind of hole up and be like, maybe he kills 3 of those snakes.
This chimp karate chop. Brian's doing the karate chop motion, by the way.
Well, because it's karate chimp, right? He's trying to use his kung fu against the rattlesnakes. But then he's slowed down, and then the python just rolls over, lazily wraps him, and then gobbles him up. And then, like, I think that's the end of it. I can't imagine the python even taking on the rattlesnake.
Because
I think of King Kong, the original, where King Kong took on a snake.
Yeah? Who won?
Yes. As we now move to documentary evidence.
Chimpanzee and Burmese python, playmate friends.
Well, all right. Here's my worry about the Burmese python from my perspective is that I don't know how tough a Burmese python's skin is. Because I'm looking at, like, can I kill this thing? Right?
The only way you're going to kill it is by getting its head. You're going to have to gouge its eyes out and stick your finger in its brain.
But, like, I also can't just rip Andrew's arm off. A chimp can rip Andrew's arm off, you know?
Like, I bruise easily. You might be able to.
So I feel like a chimp could like tear a Burmese python apart with his crazy chimp strength.
I mean, but grabbing what? I mean, I'm going to say no way, because a Burmese python definitely eats prey the size of a chimp. Let's just boil it down, because that's the real question.
Can a Burmese python eat a chimp?
Yes.
I guess that's the question.
Yes, it really is.
They might eat things bigger, but I don't know if they eat things more agile. I don't think if they eat things with that mixture of agility and strength.
What's he going to do? Because here's the problem.
Check the stat sheet, bro. We rolled for this during the first day when we were making the campaign.
Man,
Check agility plus strength and charisma.
I love Dungeons and Predators. It's my favorite role-playing game. But okay, here's the problem, is that if a chimp comes up, and let's say it's got fangs, and it just reaches down and just bites right in the middle of the Burmese python, all he does is like a steel trap, go... And then that's it. Squeezing your
How fast
out.
does it move?
Fast enough, bro. Fast enough for you, old man.
No, because like I think the problem is like you could try to screw with a python and then you kind of get tired, and then it's like, oh, okay, are you done punching me, sissy girl? No. And then you're done. But it's like a slower thing.
It's not that slow, man. It's not. I ought to
so
find.
It's slower than But how slow do you think it's like a
I'm gonna go to YouTube. I'm gonna type in Python kills.
Deedle. I think it's spelled DEEDLE.
There you go. Here's a wild-caught carpet python killing a rat. This is poorly reviewed, though. So I don't think he squeezes it here. Actually,
it really falls apart in the third act.
Wait a minute.
There's a great premise.
This is python killing a python. Take a look at this after this advertisement goes away. But I wouldn't have thought a python would kill a python. That doesn't seem right.
Skip the ad. Maybe
Dude,
he's
chimps
killing
kill
Eric
chimps.
Idle of Monty Python.
All right, here we go. Take a look at this. This is wildlife stock footage available on YouTube. We're looking at. Look at that. They're just hugging each other. It's like they're hugging it
There's
out.
two snakes, of course, because this is an audio podcast.
Yes.
Two snakes that are entwined.
This is the sound
around
of
each other in
two snakes hugging.
Look
in a
up
rock.
chimpanzee and Burmese python on
What?
YouTube.
Chimpanzee.
Also,
Burmese.
Brian, if you can remember, can you copy these URLs so we can put them in the thing?
Sure. Okay, which of these do I want to click on?
Do you see chimpanzee and Burmese python? It should say chimpanzee and Burmese python.
Well, that's what I type in. Chimpanzee Burmese python.
And let me see what you wrote again. And type in, go up again.
Yep.
And put and Burmese. Just try with and, see if that helps.
There you go. And Burmese python. This is, by the way, this is good science that we're doing right now. Oh wait,
yeah,
chimpanzee.
Third one down. Third one down. Click on that.
This is what happens when you put a chimpanzee and a Burmese python.
I'm telling you, all right? So he's got this chimp, by the way. He's wearing his red Mickey Mouse pants. It's to the boa here. Could be python, whatever. It's a snake. Okay. The chimp is just rocking it. He's just rolling around with it, playing with it like a garden hose. Fearless.
This is adorable.
Now look at that, Brian. You tell me that the chimp isn't in control here?
But that's not a 17-inch Burmese python or 17-foot.
It's maybe 7 foot or something. Do you think that's gonna stop that chimp? That chimp's like, it's a bit. Oh, look, that's longer than I realized.
It's not hungry though. Boy, that chimp, man, he loves him some.
Just look, he doesn't even care, man. He's picking that thing up like it was summertime in the yard and he's about to plug in the
like he's a
slip and slide.
toddler who doesn't understand what a Burmese python could do to him.
He knows. He's top animal, man. I'm afraid of a chimp. We're all afraid of chimps. I think the chimp is
Look
the
at that
apex
chimp.
predator.
You're afraid of that chimp? The chimp wants to give you a
That chimp
hug.
will end your life, Brian.
What are you
That
talking
chimp's a
about?
stone cold killer. And if you don't think so, then that's ridiculous.
There's a
and you
baboon
should
in the
go to chimp.
background, too. Where
Then just
is
wait
this
until the next
awesome
time
place?
you test
but
drive.
Can I
heroin.
point out that you guys are the psychotics who went to like Monkeyland in the Florida?
Monkey Jungle, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that okay, but you're afraid of this guy? Is it just a size thing?
Well, yeah.
No,
'cause,
I mean like they're awesome. Like, but lions and tigers are awesome. Wild pack dogs are awesome to look at. You don't want to be put in a room with one if it's you or them.
All right.
And yeah, I mean, spider monkeys and squirrel monkeys are a world apart from chimpanzees.
Man.
I mean, in volume, like we had probably like 90 pounds of monkeys on us.
Yeah.
You had 90
little
pounds
guys trying
of
to steal
individual
food.
Monkeys. Holy cow.
No, it was pretty legit. It was fairly amazing.
It's pretty awesome.
All right. Well, I do want to end our trilogy of Paul Freeland ads. Of course, he met Brian in Indonesia. Wanted to let him know how much he had a good time. He got some career advice, shockingly enough, from me, to his own detriment, or possible benefit. I'll leave it open. And then he gives us one final note here. I've not had the pleasure of Andrew's company, but I'm sure he's a fine gentleman and a snappy dresser.
Yeah, that is true. I can vouch
Both
for
of which
both of
I
those.
can, in fact, confirm. So thank you again, Paul Freeland. He sponsored the entire episode, bought all 3 spots. If you've bought a spot and you are waiting, you will be on the next episode. Thank you for being patient. But we did want to, especially since Brian had mentioned Paul at the beginning of the episode, we wanted to get all 3 of his spots in there. So thank you very much. Paul Freeland, weirdthings.com/sponsor. If you would like your message on the podcast for only $30.
Thank you, Paul. That was very, very generous of you to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you guys want to talk about, I don't know, movie or something?
If only there was a movie that was of interest to all of us that maybe came out 2 weeks ago that all of us saw or most of us saw and then one of us didn't see, and we were like, we'll talk about it next time we're together. But then one of us just didn't show up for 2 whole weeks, even though the other guy went on the other side of the world and was able to come back and still made his obligations to the podcast. Yeah, that sounds great.
Well, one guy happened to be on an airplane every time we did the podcast. And he said, bring other people on board because he was cool with that. Because
Oh no, let's talk about The Dark Knight Rises.
Which
Fine.
does kind of seem like a world away. Like from when it came out, like of course you had the big tragedy in Colorado. We've had so much time. People have talked about it a lot. It does kind of seem a long way away. But I will say this, that the farther I've gotten away from the movie, the more I've liked it. And the more I think about it, the more I liked it. I enjoyed the movie walking out. I think it is, I mean, Christopher Nolan to me is the best in the biz. If there's one director that, I mean, I have directors that I love, like Quentin Tarantino, that I will always go see his movies. But I think the guy who's doing the best, most ambitious work right now is Christopher Nolan. And I don't think we've seen a talent like him operating in that kind of arena for, doing thought-provoking, interesting stuff for mainstream audience since Spielberg, in my opinion.
Can I ask you real quick? And this will kind of set the stage for where we're at now as we delve into the movie. Last night you called me with a hypothetical scenario where I had to pick A or B. Was that related to any news story, or where did that come from?
That was just a straight question that I had.
Okay.
All right. Here now we are going to say,
spoiler alert, we're going into spoils.
Yep.
spoilers herein.
Batman is Bruce Wayne.
3, 2, 1. All right, we're into spoiler territory. What I asked Brian last night, and I will ask you, Andrew, there's 2 movie announcements in the next 5 minutes. Tell me which one you are most excited for.
Like, and a genie shows up and it'd be like, there are 2 projects coming. You are only able to see one of them.
I'm not still going, holy crap, a genie.
No, the genie looks shockingly like Justin Robert Young.
I mean, does he look kind of
I don't
Middle
know
Eastern?
why
Am
we
I
need a
afraid?
genie.
This guy pops out of nowhere holding a device. I'm like, whoa.
Because in real life, you would be able to see both projects, but in this case, you have to choose one, right? So it's like you only one or the other.
All right.
By the way, for those of you listening, you have to understand this is the nature of our relationship, is calling each other up with stupid questions. And like, I called Brian up last week because like, you got to see The Hunter, because I got to discuss The Hunter, because I don't know how I feel about the ending, And that was just the message I left.
What's great is we'll spend, like, the phone will ring, you're like, hello, there, and it's like, all right, look, so here's what's happening, right? And you set up the choice, you spend 3 minutes setting up the choice, and then they give an answer, and then whatever the answer is, the other person just blows up and criticizes that person for the next 30 minutes about how they're high as a kite.
All right, so here's the scenario. Either a Hawkeye film written and directed by Joss Whedon. So he has complete creative control, writing and directing. And then let's even, just to sweeten the deal, add the female lead is the most exciting female lead you could possibly put in the Hawkeye movie.
Wait,
right?
So in other words, Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow?
You could. Add
Right.
Scarlett and then another somebody who you'd be like, oh my God, that would be great, right? Or a continuation of the, as we find out, Robin Blake character as he takes the reins of the Batman mantle, not written and not directed by Christopher Nolan,
But
produced by Christopher Nolan.
which
Who's
you
the
can only
director?
see one of those two movies. Which one?
Who's the director?
Let's say
Let's say Zack Snyder.
or a Snyder equivalent, but he's somebody that Nolan signs off on.
That Nolan chose?
No, well,
you don't
like
you don't
as
get
much
to
as
know.
Nolan chose Zack Snyder.
Right. All you know is that it's put out by Syncope production company.
Robin Blake.
Really?
Yep.
That's what I'd say.
Yep,
Not
in a heartbeat.
directed. Huh. Now is that just because you love the Batman world or
Well, all right, here, real quick, Andrew, I'll sweeten the pot. Hawkeye's certainly a kind of the basement level of the Avengers. Let's go one up. We do another a Hulk movie that doesn't have all the like, is the Hulk good or bad storyline, which is easily the weakest parts of both those previous Hulk movies, written and directed by Joss Whedon with Mark Ruffalo.
Here's the reason why I'm still gonna go the Robin Blake. Okay.
all right?
I like Whedon. I'm excited to see Whedon in the Marvel Universe. Whedon handling that. My interest in, and I'm a Marvel guy, just so you know. I bleed Marvel, okay? But Batman is kind of like a, my one weakness. The reason is this, is that intellectually, Batman is fascinating. Batman is very, very fascinating. There's a lot of different ways you can go into that story. There are a lot of different things that you can explore with that. I liked the Avengers, but the Avengers was, very well acted, good character moments with a monster of the week. You know, where to me the Batman stories gets a lot more into the psychology, the world building.
It's almost more about the villains than the hero itself.
Well, and even the environment. Gotham has its own character. Gotham has its own. You could watch. You could follow. That camera could go down a street, and there's going to be something interesting going on, or there's something. It's like The Wire. It's like a lot of things. It's Sherlock Holmes. It's just a bunch of these elements that come into play there, and what it does to people is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So
I also think, and I asked Brett this initially, and his point was that it was kind of an unfair question because we are going to get way more into the Avengers universe. We know that. We're going to get so far into the Avengers, we're going to get at least 5 more movies in the Avengers universe that we know of now.
At least $5 billion more studio dollars into this universe.
Yeah, so it's like we will get more of that, and we will get more of Zack Snyder. We don't know. It would at this point be a reversal of what he has said for Nolan to have any involvement in a Batman story.
This is like a magical flight of fancy. The fact that like one thing is expected and believable, the other it's like it's like a genie granted a wish, and you're like, what? But there is more to the Batman story.
And also, I don't know.
The top for you. Imagine Rian Johnson directing.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt Batman story. I will buy my first 7 tickets right now. I will give them money for my first 7 tickets, and if they woke me up tomorrow and said, "Oh, by the way, all the transactions went through, but we accidentally oversold your tickets. You need to buy 14 more tickets," I would buy 14 more tickets.
Wow. All right.
Are you kidding?
There are some up and coming directors who I think are exciting. I think Rian Johnson, Duncan Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the latest thing Duncan Jones did?
Last one was Source Code.
Okay, that's right. Source Code, I'll tell you what. I liked Source Code, okay. It just felt small. It felt like a really, really well done single episode of The Twilight Zone to me. And it was kind of a bummer that it wasn't bigger, especially after Moon. But then again, keep in mind, Christopher Nolan, I loved Memento the way I loved Moon. And his second effort was Insomnia. Right?
Well, I mean, technically Following was his first feature. So Memento was the second, but the third was Insomnia.
Right. Do you know what the budget was for Source Code, though?
Like, it was like, what, $20 in a taco?
The Source Code was and look, pulled it up here, $32 million.
Wow.
So it felt like an $80 million movie, And so I would say that I hear what you're saying, absolutely what you're saying, but what he was able to do with that, give him $100 million, put him in a $150 million film franchise, I would be excited to see what he does. Because I think Duncan Jones is a guy that gets sci-fi, and now you say, okay, we know you get that. Now let's put you in a superhero universe. Could be interesting.
Absolutely. Well, and to be honest, we saw the same thing. In fact, that production budget is pretty close to what Serenity cost. Which was when Joss Whedon, of course, took the franchise of Firefly and made it into it was like $20 to $30 million movie production for Universal.
I mean, I will say this, and I liked Dark Knight Rises, and I liked Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the character that he played, but everything that happened in that movie is less interesting than what I imagine in my head of the possibilities of could happen after the final frame of that movie, where, slowly the bat closet is coming out of the bat lake.
Sure. But I don't. Have we seen any other big ticket movies that have played up that somebody inheriting the mantle of a superhero like that and trying to figure out how? I mean, I guess technically that's what a Green Lantern story is or whatever, but not one where we knew the previous person who was that character. I mean, I think that's what I would love the most about it, is see somebody try to grow into the role of being the next Batman.
And there are a lot of interesting Batman storylines of where he had other mentors of guys who are these sort of golden era kind of crime fighter type guys that he'd learned from. And I think it could be it could be neat because the disadvantage for Blake was he didn't get to go to ninja school.
Right.
And so he's got to start off in a different sort of place than, and we don't know if he quite has the inexhaustible funds and Lucius Fox giving him toys and stuff. It could feel like the comic book Batman Year One was a really good, was the idea of the first year of Batman, and you got bits. That was the great thing about the series, the trilogy, was Nolan pulled some great elements, but you could do kind of a Year One trilogy unto itself of that first year of him trying to be the Batman.
The closest thing I can think of was, and I know Justin hates the storyline, but in the Iron Man franchise, when Tony Stark has lost alcoholism and he's a bum on the street, and James Rhodes takes on the armor, like, this is a guy, Tony Stark, part of what makes Tony Stark is that he is smart enough to develop all this technology, and he knows the armor intimately inside and out because he's the one who built it all, whereas James Rhodes is a more blue-collar individual who just sort of like, I don't know, I can fly and I'm strong now. And there's sort of this, wait a minute. Hold on, take a look at this.
That's the extent of his alcoholism. I am showing for the camera right now. I like Demon in the Bottle.
Wait, hold it up and put your face next to it.
I smell a new Twitter avatar right now.
Wait, do you have your Iron Man mask there?
Can you hold your Iron Man mask?
Crap.
This would be amazing.
Being cheated.
It's totally shocking how close that is. That part of it aside, the fact that he's able to take a shower and sweat for a while and suddenly he's not an alcoholic.
Laps in the pool. Him and Don Draper. The only way to cure alcoholism is by doing laps in the pool.
That's apparently the new in thing, right? But outside of that, there's this moment when Tony Stark decides to come back, when briefly there are two Iron Men. Only one of them, you figure out really fast, doesn't know a damn thing about the armor that he's rocking, and he's ostensibly the real Iron Man. Whereas, Tony Stark is kind of warming up. Like, at first, he insists on using only the original prototype, the old the kludgy refrigerator version, where it's almost like he wants the challenge. He's like, no, you're Iron Man. I'm just sort of warming up to it again and going through the motions. I think this is a neat idea that I haven't seen in any of the major film recreations of these comic book properties.
Yeah, I hear you, and that'll be kind of cool to see. I love Don Cheadle, and I think we may actually get that in Iron Man. We'll see where Shane Black's going with Iron Man 3. Could be amazing. But I'm so. What was your answer to that, Bri? Which did you want?
I went with, and keep in mind, I'm skewed because I just watched the Avengers for a second time. And I don't know why I'm fascinated with which one I like more between the Avengers and the Dark Knight, because they're two very different movies. Mm-hmm. But there's some scientific part of my brain that keeps shouting like, no, in your heart, you have more love points for one than the other. You must figure out which love rises. And it wasn't until the flight back from Taipei, coming back from Indonesia, I rewatched The Avengers. And keep in mind, there's a huge difference watching it at the movie theater for the first time versus watching it the second time on a 6-inch LCD screen with crappy audio. You're really only hearing one channel on the side. But son of a bitch, is the writing awesome on The Avengers. Like, I found myself laughing involuntarily several times rewatching it, even knowing what was coming up, because there's little moments you forget or new things that you discover. It's like it's like every 30 seconds, and I told this to Justin, every 30 seconds you get a squirt of serotonin, and every 3 minutes you get a major battle. And whether that serotonin is because of a clever line, that makes you laugh, or something that surprises you, or a minor scuffle, it's like the pacing is exquisite from beginning to end. The one thing I did notice about the Avengers second time through was it was a bigger pill to swallow, the whole superhero comic booky thing in the first act, the second time I watched it, after having watched The Dark Knight Rises. But outside of that, though, it was still amazing.
Well, it's funny you said better, that it is well written, and because I would say, and I think you're not wrong, but there is a distinction between dialogue and plot and story, and I would say that the dialogue and the scene by scene conflicts that come up through the Avengers are extraordinarily well written, which Whedon has always done. He's always been a great person of like the back and forth. Character to character, but I would say that Dark Knight Rises and the Dark Knight movies are exceptionally well written in terms of the plot and story and character development, because I continue to go back and look at things like, oh wait, like that was paralleling that, or this character meant that. Or if you look at in Dark Knight Rises, the latest thing I've been kind of fascinated about and turning over in my head over and over again is there was stuff that leaked out from the Bane costume designer who talked about, and who knows whether or not we're going to ever see it, because Nolan doesn't never put deleted footage on his DVDs, but there was apparently a lot cut that showed Bane training in the similar manner to Bruce Wayne in Batman Begins. So he's doing the same on all the poles, standing up on all the poles while people are hitting him with the sticks. And so it's Tom Hardy going through those same things. So theoretically, the idea was to more specifically say that Bane isn't just somebody who comes out of the wild like the Joker did in Dark Knight. He is very much an equal to Bruce Wayne, and is as driven and focused.
Yeah, he's like what Bruce Wayne was 10 years before the cartilage was gone.
Okay, now, if I can offer a counterpoint, and keep in mind this comes from somebody who liked the movie, but it's weird to me how much more I liked The Dark Knight Rises once I wasn't looking at it anymore. The actual experience of watching it. There's extended passages, there's extended moments in the first and second acts where I'm checking my watch and I'm just like, okay, what is it? Why am I looking at this? Now, granted, a lot of that came to mean something in the third act, and then looking back, and you see what they wanted to achieve in that third act, you're like, okay, I understood they had to set it up this way, and it was like taking bitter medicine. But like there was chunks of The Dark Knight Rises that just weren't fun, and I didn't like watching them, and it wasn't interesting for those moments. I was bored during moments of the movies. Now, having said all that, there were really cool things that happened, and those scenes were necessary to make them possible, whereas there was never a moment like that during the Avengers, right?
See, there was for me. That's weird because like the Avengers, I felt like we kept kind of jumping backwards so we could get like 3 come to Jesus moments, and that was that. And they're very different movies. Like with Dark Knight, like in knowing how much I love Nolan, I'm like every scene I'm just into because I know he doesn't waste a frame. And with Avengers, I felt like when I watch, I know Marvel team ups, we got to have the fight, Iron Man and the Thor, and they meet. But I go, man, this was only there so we could have the fight. Nothing got established. It did nothing that had no bearing. A lot of that stuff that had no bearing on the story, other than giving us these fan moments. So I guess that's from like a story point of view. I kind of kept going, well, if I cut this out, we'd still be in the same spot. Where at the Dark Knight, I go like, man, there's like I want to see the 4-hour version.
Really? Well, and that was the impression I got walking out of The Dark Knight. I thought there's no way this is the full movie. I feel like there's more here. Almost similar to Prometheus, only not just a giant.
Well, you felt that way. Yeah, you felt that way about Amazing Spider-Man 2 because you wanted more development with Doc Connors too.
That's right. Apparently, I want more of everything. That's me.
I mean, we live in a great time. I mean, that's when we get to argue which is better. The Joss Whedon Avengers or the Christopher Nolan third Batman movie.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'll tell you what, and that was leaving the theater. We had these expectations and hopes that this summer would be a very important summer for comic book films, and comic book movies. You had 3 big A titles coming out with competent directors behind them, and you kind of hoped that in this world where, it's like, all right, trust guys who get the source material, who do their jobs well, and we'll go from there, that would pan out. And it has. For all 3 of them, they did, very, very good box office business, and hopefully that is the lesson for Hollywood going forward, is not last year's lesson of Green Lantern, of put somebody who doesn't care about the property behind it, but rather this year's, which is the Joss Whedons, Mark Webbs, and Christopher Nolans of the world. Let's give them the reins and let them do what they do best. Because for me, it was there were 3 films that to me, go in the top 10, if not the top 5.
And keep in mind, for anyone who's sitting back and just shouting like, you spoiled brats, it's like we're very aware of how spoiled for choice we are. We are so thrilled that as children we were able to experience these stories. This is in every way the culmination of our wildest dreams of what we wanted for these franchises that were so beloved. But having said all that, this is where we are right now, and this is what we have to argue about. So argue we will.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing that we get that we get to do it. All right. Do we have any other thoughts on Dark Knight?
Are there any other picks that you guys want to mention before we wrap up? We're running long on this episode.
I'm gonna throw out there. It's on Netflix streaming. We've talked about it before. The Hunter, starring William Dafoe, and he's a hunter who goes after a Tasmanian tiger in Tasmania. Best place to look. And it's a different kind of movie. I mean, it's a character piece, and it's got some action beats to it. I enjoyed it, and in the ending, though, any of you guys seen it yet?
No. Do you want to
see it? It would be a good discussion because I got to. I'm like, I don't think I get this. I think I kind of get what they're trying to say, but that's not really as consistent logically with what the overarching theme of the movie is. I could have missed something entirely. So
sure. All right. What about you, Justin? You got something?
I'll tell you, I'm going to pick something that I actually watched with Brian. It might be a little bit outside the wheelhouse.
This was going to be my pick as well. Can we do a unified pick? Is that possible?
No,
sure. It's all the 30 for 30 documentaries, which ESPN did, are now up on Netflix. If you don't like sports, many of them are still amazing. They're super well done.
I'm that guy. I could care I'm that jerk who takes as a point of pride that I don't care about sports ball. Yet the storytelling, especially on Silly Little Game. I mean, we could talk about both of them. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to pick. Basically, Silly Little Game is about the group of 5 geeks that were obsessed with, one is super obsessed with numbers, who comes up with the idea of rotisserie league baseball, which eventually becomes fantasy baseball, which eventually becomes the $4 billion industry that is fantasy sports, and kind of just how basically it is this kind of triumph of the nerds sort of story, and not only is it a well done documentary, but they also weave in what is basically the fiction biography of them acted out by actors, which is extremely well done.
They do it in the style of, if you've ever seen the drunk history shorts, where basically they get someone drunk and they starts explaining what happened in history, and then they have people recreate it word for word coming from a drunk man, and they nail that style hilariously. They come up with these little vignettes for every piece of the puzzle. I was trying to ignore it and instead was trying to read 100 Bullets.
It's like Brian is like,
well, because they were watching it and I happened to be in the room, and I just got too caught up in it. It was too funny, and it was like there were serious laugh out loud cackle moments in there.
So check that out. It's on Netflix. It's called Silly Little Game. It's part of ESPN's 30 for 30 documentary series.
Yeah, that's my pick too.
Well, gentlemen, that's a wrap.
Wait, that's
We'll
not
be back together.
that's not how we end. You see, this
Do
is
you
how
forget
long
how it
it's
ended?
been.
I know how it ended. Did I say it was over yet? Did I?
No.
Look at my face. Did I say that it was over yet?
As Andrew now flashes a picture of a screaming
monkey, which of course he has right next to his camera.
Of course. It's been weird. Are you happy?
Yeah.
Yes. I think everyone's happy.
We're all happier now. Thank you.
Did you have the heart out at 10:30, Andrew?
I got like 5 more minutes, but yeah.
Okay. Bonnie just came in.
Hey, Bonnie.
Bonnie!
Hello.
How you doing, Bon?
I'm good. I am big, fat, and pregnant.
Boy, she is fat. My wife she's got a big old beer gut. I was like, what have you been doing while I was going?
Well,
growing a baby.
Growing
That's
a
what.
baby.
Bonnie, when are you due?
Christmas Eve.
What?
Yeah. Oh, did we not drop that little gem?
Oh.
Yeah, they're already working on me. The very first appointment, they go, "Oh, well, you can always induce like a week early."
A lot of people do
A lot
that.
of people do that. Nobody wants their holiday spoiled by me giving birth to a baby.
Yeah, it is. I believe Christmas Eve is the least popular day. Like more people induce, or I guess at some biochemical level, they cross their legs mentally and make it through.
No,
but that is the least popular day.
They all get induced, and
You want to know who didn't and was born on Christmas Day?
Who?
Jesus. My friend Jesus Menendez, who I knew he lived in Hialeah. His family didn't want to induce.
actually, he was like born in the spring or something. When he
Great. Now you're calling them out, huh? All right.
Spoiler alert.
All right, Bonnie. Seriously, you go into a room,
Okay.
and there's one of 3 things there.
Yeah.
Which do you choose? Okay.
Okay.
You can either the lights turn on, and
Yes.
you're in the room with 4 rattlesnakes. Or you're in the room.
I love your reaction.
Or you're in the room with 1 17-foot long python.
Oh.
Or you're in the room with 1 adult chimpanzee.
I think How recently has that python been fed?
No promises.
No
That's
promises.
a good question, though. None of us thought to ask that.
I'm thinking my better bet is the python.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
because there's like, I just think it'd be slower.
All right, wait a minute, though. Bri,
Yeah?
show her karate chip, and then we'll see if you change your mind.
Karate chimp.
Hold on, let me give it. Let's type in karate chimp. Here, in the meantime, if you
No,
think...
I'm not saying you know
did you
whether or
guys
not
talk
this
about that?
is
I
karate
saw-
chip.
Hold on, real quick. Check this out. This is well, maybe this will put things in perspective as far as that python goes. Take a look at this. This is on.
Oh.
So picture this, right? A 17-foot long python,
That's really gross.
right? Get
Yeah,
ready.
No, Bonnie,
the way
this is
I
like
feel
something
right
that Harry
now.
Potter has to stick a knife in its face.
This is how slow it is.
cute.
Look how slow it moves. She totally jumped. That was amazing.
Shut up. See, you guys just need to have girls on the show so that you can like taunt them with your boyish
just creep them out.
antics. Oh Oh my goodness.
But tell me, right? Okay, does that change now? On the flip side, let's take a look at this. Right
yeah,
here.
I saw that lady went to trial about that chimpanzee attack, like the one whose face was like totally messed up.
Well,
Yeah, she's suing the state. Yeah.
No way I could make a 16-year-old chimp perform karate if he didn't want to do it. He just likes it. He puts on that gi and his belt, and he's all set to go.
Oh man, he's adorable. How could that ever tear your face off? Oh man.
A lot of his karate moves, especially his jump spinning heel kick, he could actually throw it better than any human.
I love how this is like MTV Sports. They had the little.
plus I'll eat your face off.
Oh man, that reminds me of Josie. Like her favorite thing to do is put a diaper over her face and like got one of the leg holes and it's just her eyes peeping out. And this little.
She goes, "I'm a ninja."
and she sneaks very stealthily around the house. It's kind of funny. Anyways, so we find out the sex tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah, I was asking if you guys were gonna do a big live stream reveal show.
I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. But this is an anatomical survey. That they do of the
They're
children.
looking at the. Well, I was pointing out that only 1 in 5,000 babies after they're born, their genitalia is ambiguous and they can't identify as boy or girl.
Ooh.
Have you seen the promos for Brittany and Abby, this TLC show?
No.
I had some material worked out.
Go ahead.
Okay. So then, so they're looking at all the bones and all the structure because pretty much the baby is like totally there the way it'll be later on,
Right.
Yeah.
And
5 fingers, 5 toes.
I just was like, well, we've got Penny and then we had Josie and then they're going to be looking at, oh, this is serious. We see that there's a bone that is missing. You're like, what? What bone could be missing? The funny bone. I'm sorry. You're done. This child does not have a funny bone. I'm like, the other two have sucked me dry.
Check this out, man. I haven't watched TLC in a billion years because it's a crappy network.
Hold on, wait a minute. By the way, let me just say that's good material, Bon. I'm glad you rolled in here with that.
you.
I'm glad
Thank
you
you.
got the show.
It was
That's
good.
what you recognize,
nice.
Bonnie. That was well delivered, well paced. Cheers to you. Kings to you, Bonnie Freshman.
Wow.
It's the king's speech instead of the bum's mumble. Here, look at this thing. There you go.
I'm Abby. I'm Brittany. I control the right side, and I control the left side. You're a joy. No. Did you know that? We definitely compromise because we have to. 1, 2, 3.
When I first met them, I just thought, what is life like for them? Everywhere that they go, they get the stares. I just don't know how they do that every day.
You throw it out there, let it go.
Abby and Brittany premieres August 28th at 10. Following
Wow.
the return of 19 Kids and Counting. Only
Well,
on
we
TLC.
saw them on a different show, and they were so adorable.
Well, we
on
saw
that.
them when they were 6 years old. I think they
Yeah.
did a life pictorial on them, and then and I guess they did a thing on Oprah when they were 16. But it's like the odds apparently. Apparently, I'll have to look at it. It's like less than 1 in 1,000 conjoined twins survive past their first year.
Oh.
And so, they not only, it's like they obviously, you tell from ultrasounds that you got something up. They decided to go ahead knowing that the odds were the vast odds were that they weren't going to live. But on top of everything, for them to be so well adjusted and gorgeous and
Yeah, they're full of life, and you just think about
Yeah.
I look at how little things annoy me or whatever, and I'll be like, yeah, things suck, and then you think about people who deal with real problems. It's like, no, I suck.
yes,
Because it's like they can be them and also be disappointed with Spider-Man.
yeah.
Like no matter what, you can have the same exact problem. They have that problem. It's not like they don't have an opinion on Spider-Man.
amazing.
Imagine if they disagree on Spider-Man.
Oh.
Oh, dude. Imagine if you and Brian were on the same body and would just bicker about Spider-Man all day.
Man.
Karate chimp.
Yeah, do we? You want to get? Because I can type in a title here, and so we don't have to. I don't have to like make up a title. If we want to think of a title right now.
What was it? What'd you call it? Terrorland or
Terrorland? Terror World.
Terror World. Welcome to Terror World. What's your dream?
Is that what they call LA now? Terror World?
I every time I'm there and I walk around, that's always going through my head.
Welcome to Hollywood. What's your dream?
Did neither of you guys saw or watching Breaking Bad, right? Well,
not yet.
All right. Well, here, let me just this will be spoiler free, but a significant moment because Paul Aaron had previously appeared on.
Oh my gosh! Are you serious?
Yeah.
It's adorable.
On Price is Right?
Yeah, no, he lost on The Price is Right. He was over.
Oh.
But look at that, right?
He's got glasses, huh?
Yeah.
That's
It was
funny.
back with the. I said Aaron Paul is apparently. I'm wrong. I said Paul Aaron. I'm thinking of Paul Allen.
Neither Justin
No,
or I
you're
rushed
thinking
to
of John Aaron of the House Aaron.
I think you know what, you're right. I think I'm actually thinking of oh damn it, I was trying to think of what do they call
Elvis Aaron Presley.
What do they call that certain person after she's not dead but ruling that gang?
Oh, I'm not Blackheart, Iceheart, something like that.
Something like that. That's what I was gonna say, but screw it. Anyway, look, gentlemen, this was a good time, but this is my first experience of sitting down with my wife alone in
Well,
2 weeks. So
Never mind us.
yeah.
You know,
Go ahead.
That is creepy. All right, friends, let's get this baby bump going. Baby bump, jump bump.
Love you guys.
Well, y'all don't know what happens on this computer after dark.
Or do we?
Exactly. It's probably
Amazing.
certainly not episodes of cartoons on Netflix when Josie can't get to sleep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
right.
dude. I totally like. Part of me I mean, I can't show it, but it's like I just want to show Bonnie those some of those scenes from that 30 and 30, the silly little game.
Why?
I mean, it's only an hour. Pretty quick to watch. It's fun.
I would rewatch it. It was very well done.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, gang.
All right,
to see
beautiful
you
people.
guys.
So long. Bye,
Love you
guys.
guys.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.